Ooh, remember that violent teen takeover in Chicago this past weekend? Well, we just got some disturbing new video. A crazed mob beating up an innocent young couple. This happened during 3 days of mayhem in the city. Chicago political leaders are making stupid excuses. Outgoing Mayor Lightfoot said the rioting teens were just enjoying the warm weather. Yeah. Chicago's mayor-elect, Let's Go Brandon Johnson, warned everyone not to, quote, demonize the youth. But the doozy of all of them, Illinois State Senator Robert Peters tweeting, quote, I would look at the behavior of young people as a political act and statement. It's a mass protest against poverty and segregation. Way to project. With politicians like these, will crime in Chicago get worse or magically get better like it always does? Joining me now to discuss our party panel, we've got editor at townhall.com and Fox News contributor Katie Pavlich in our nation's capital. She's joined by senior political analyst for Fox News and Fox Business, Juan Williams, and 2020 Libertarian Vice Presidential Candidate Chair of youarethepower.net. I will see him in Memphis for Freedom Fest in July. Spike Cohen, let us do this damn thing. So, Katie, I am watching this, and I'm wondering if you say things like they were just enjoying the warm weather and you make a series of excuses saying it was a mass protest, people dancing on buses and beating the living daylights out of someone who was just sitting in their car scared to death that they weren't going to survive the whole thing. I don't know that that's a mass protest or summer enjoyment. When does that sort of excuse making end?
Yeah, any normal person watches this and is horrified about this behavior. And I think one of the most egregious things about this, with these politicians and the mayor and the former mayor excusing this kind of behavior and somehow justifying it, is what is your end goal there? When you allow young people to engage in this type of self-destructive behavior where they're destroying their own communities, it ends very poorly for those people and for the people who are victims of their crimes. The number one cause of death for young black men, actually black men under the age of 50, is homicide. Guess who's pulling the trigger? So if these politicians think that they're somehow helping these young people by enabling or justifying this type of behavior, they're actually setting them up for a life of crime, a short life potentially, and they're also setting up innocent people as victims because they refuse to put these people behind bars to teach them a lesson about how to behave in civil society and towards people in your own community.
So I thought that the state senator and the mayor-elect, Juan, had it wrong. You know, trying to soft pedal this, to Katie's point, it doesn't do anyone any favors. But what I did appreciate was Lori Lightfoot, the outgoing mayor, coming forward and saying parents need to be involved here. They need to teach their children the difference between right and wrong. Is she onto something, Juan?
Of course. I mean, look, a lot of this has to do with family breakdown, high percentage of children born out of wedlock, single-parent families, where the mom might be a hardworking person but not around in terms of providing that necessary guidance and value setting. And, you know, to my mind, you know, well, I think the politician, as he said, he knew he was going to be a glutton for punishment because he knew people like us were going to get out there and say he's fool. But, you know, I see this everywhere. Here in D.C., there was a kid who was stealing a car. Someone comes out. They have a gun. The kid ends up getting shot to death. But instead of saying, hey, why is that kid stealing the car, they put the gun guy in jail. And I just thought to myself, you know, to me, that sends the wrong message about kids stealing cars. It's not that I'm indifferent to the value of life. Don't mistake me. But I think you've got to be very clear that criminal activity is not to be excused or encouraged.
Yeah, and we have done that. We have softened that so much, and I don't think it does really bad people a great service. And I think that you can be bad by the time you're 16 or 17 years old. I don't think that going, oh, you know, society has failed you is somehow going to force you to make better choices. You may be too far gone at that point, but what happened to don't hurt people, don't take their stuff, Spike?
Yeah, I don't. Lord of the Flies wasn't supposed to be a how-to video, and I'm not sure. Obviously, this didn't just spring out of nowhere, right? Like hundreds of teenagers and young people rioting in the streets wasn't something that just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And I agree with a large bit of what Katie and Juan both said. I think we shouldn't be lionizing these people or these kids as protesters against systemic inequality, and we do need to look at things like the breakdown of the family and a lack of respect for people's lives and property. I do want to say that I don't think this is a simple issue of not cracking down hard enough. In fact, there is an argument that can be made that this actually was a result of crackdowns that started this time last year when, after a shooting, Mayor Lightfoot introduced these curfews that are now being enforced. And so now you have a situation where during the warmer months, anyone under the age of, I believe it's 17 or 16, really doesn't have a place that they're allowed to go that's outside. Yeah, that's going to breed these kinds of problems. That in and of itself isn't the only problem. Another one, and it's interesting that the state senator mentioned segregation. I agree that kids being segregated into poorly performing government-run schools, where in Chicago 95% of students have little to no math or reading proficiency, is a problem, which is why I support policies like school choice. There are some policy changes that can happen.